My heart goes out to Jamie Roots and his family in lieu of his passing. I think it's appropriate to talk about him before we start the press conference. Obviously, he was a former GM here with the Columbus Crew. He was my assistant coach at IU for a couple years. Very good soccer player, played at Clemson, and obviously was with the Houston Texans. But my heart, and I think I speak for the club's heart goes out to his family. He was a good man, a good friend, and did a lot for soccer and football in this country. And you know, it's a sad day in that regard.
Pat, do you want to start us off?
Thanks for that, first of all. When you look back, I know you mentioned after the game that you thought there were some guys that didn't have it, especially early on. From a manager perspective, what do you do this week to make sure that that isn't the issue? Is it as much as changing lineups, or is it just getting guys going? I know you said guys have to perform and guys have to show up, but what do you do this week?
Yeah, good question. It's always a little of both. Yeah, sometimes there has to be accountability, right? Always, and you know, ideally you want every player to be performing, but that's why you have a squad. And when you start to get dips in performance, then you know you have to look at one or two things, like you said. You know, how do you get that player to play better, and or do you need to make changes in terms of personnel? So those are things we'll look at, talk about. We'll follow the same process we always do. So we'll analyze the game, we'll show film, and then we'll have individual discussions as well. You know, it's my job to make sure these guys perform to their level and their ability. So, you know, sometimes it's just a little bit more in training, a little bit more in video, a conversation, but sometimes, you know, you have to honor the culture of competition. You know, and when guys are playing well or when guys get opportunities, you know, there are times when you have to change. You have to change personnel. Otherwise, there is no competition. There is no meaning in training, and there's no accountability for performance.
Does the fact that you have a game like this one coming Saturday kind of help get that going within the team, obviously with it being a rivalry game?
Yeah, and again, I'll go back to, I didn't think it was bad. When I looked at the game, I just felt like there was a little bit, with a few guys, there could have been a little bit more hunger in moments, especially in around the goal. Like I said, you saw it on set piece defending, you know, just marking a guy, attacking the ball, fighting through picks, and even kind of on the first goal, just not getting pressure to shots or denying crosses, attacking the ball on the crosses, clearing our lines, stepping out. And I felt like there could have been a little bit more hunger and urgency in around the box. You know, so that's something I think we need to improve. You know, and the first goal and the second goal are case in point. You know, first goal, it's a cross that comes in. You know, we got to get better pressure on the crosses. We can't be giving crosses that easy. We have to attack the ball, and then we have to step out and clear our lines and get pressure on that second wave and the shot from distance. And then the second goal as well, it's a ball served in, and they were just more hungry than us in that moment to score the goal. And so, you know, I think there are a lot of good things that we did that I'm not losing sight of, but for me, that's what cost us the 3 points, was just that little hunger around the box, our box defending, our pressure on service, and our pressure on top of the box, and our hunger on set pieces.
We talked last year about when you guys moved to lower.com, the adjustment, but you guys have been there for over a year now. There haven't been losses, but there's been a number of these draws. Is there anything that you look at why it hasn't become that fortress that you guys have mentioned on more than one occasion, maybe outside of what we see, you know, on the field?
Yeah, well, a couple things. I mean, again, I think you said it. You know, we're not losing a lot, but we need to win more. You know, so I think for me, it's important to understand too that when you have a good stadium and a good crowd, the opponent, you know, they get up for it as well. So we used to always see that in Portland. You know, our players would get up for our home games, but so would every other player in the league and every other team in the league, because it's a fun place to come and play and it's a great atmosphere. And so I think, you know, that's something you have to take into account. I think we're playing well at home. It's just, yeah, we're not finding that, you know, kind of goal, or we're not closing it out the way we needed to in some games. But we'll keep working on it. We'll keep looking at it. But yeah, for me, for sure, there can just be a notch of improvement in terms of just seeing out games. You know, especially, I mean, when you look at the last 3 games, obviously New York City, we did a good job getting the win there. You know, actually, if you take the last 4, Cincinnati, we got a win there. So we got 2 wins, and then we had a loss and a draw. And in the loss and the draw, we didn't see out the end of the game. You know, in Montreal and obviously Atlanta.
Obviously, Cucco's had an incredible impact for you guys in his first 8 games. I think I just saw something that only 4 players in MLS have scored 8 goals in 8 games. When you think about other strikers who have come into the league and had that kind of impact, how does Cucco sort of stack up against guys who've come in and done things like that?
I don't know how he stacks up. You know, that's your guys' job to figure that out and size guys up. I just know that he's performed really well, and that's obvious in just his impact he's had, our results that we've had as well. You know, it's what you hope for. You know, obviously a guy comes kind of end of the year, really mid-season, end of the year. It's not easy. He's a foreign player. It's a new league. It's a new team, new coach, new players, new opponents, new stadiums, everything. And it's not easy. So I think it just says a lot about his quality and his mentality as well. To be able to transition so quickly, you have to have a lot of quality, and you have to have a great mentality. And I think he's showing why he was in the Premier League and La Liga.
I'm sure this is something you addressed about him when he got here, but I wasn't here. I guess, how does that sort of process of getting him adjusted to the league and introducing him to his new teammates and everything, how does that work from your guys' perspective, and how do you help him settle in?
I think he's there. He's there. You know, obviously, if he wasn't scoring goals or playing well, then we'd worry about that. So he's there. He's transitioned. He's comfortable with his team, the players, myself. He understands his role, and I think it's been very seamless, which is great to see.
Do you have any update on Pedro?
Pedro has a hamstring strain. Will not be available this next game.
I know we've talked about Luis a good amount recently, but we're going to talk to him in a minute. Through his first few seasons, we saw flashes, right? Yeah. But it wasn't as consistent as it's been now. And, you know, I think the relationship with Cucco is obviously clear and things like that. But have there been other things, maybe not as noticeable, that have seen his game, you know, maybe not go to another level, but just be more consistent, and you can rely on him to be an impact player now?
I think a lot of it is confidence, you know, and he's riding a wave right now of confidence where he's performed really well. He's feeling good about, you know, the fact that he's chipping in goals and he's getting his crosses, you know, on the money. And I think that's always been, we talked about it so many times in here, and there have been many moments I've had meetings with the team, and it's always Luis is in a good spot. Luis is in a good spot. But he's got to get the cross right. He's got to be more precise, and he's got to make a better decision on where to cross. And I think his understanding with Cucco, I think, is huge, because Cucco, his movement in the box is very predictable from the standpoint of it's early and it's obvious where he wants the ball. And I think there have been some times where it's not obvious where the striker wants the ball, and I think Cucco either comes and finds an angle for a cutback, or he's in the right spot for a slide, and it's very obvious and it's early and it's intentional. And so I think that certainly helps. But yeah, I just think he's feeling good about, you know, things have a tendency to kind of slow down in a good way when you're confident and you're getting those details right. And I think he's seeing things he's feeling good about, his performances and his assists that he's chipping in. And I think things are really comfortable for him. He's in a state of flow, you know, where he's not thinking too much. He's just playing well.
To follow up with Pedro, James obviously came in and played well, especially in the second half. Will.
Yeah.
Sorry, we were talking about both of them earlier. The way that he's developed throughout the year, I know he hasn't seen a ton of minutes, but stepped in when you guys have needed him to. He's got to start in the Open Cup. Just what have you liked about him and seen him come along throughout the season?
Yeah, he's a gamer, and I think you've seen it in the two games at Atlanta where he had to go in early. I kind of, when Pedro went out, you know, I kind of walked over to Will and said, you know, I guess this is, you know, ironic, right? In a, I think a little bit of deja vu that you're going in again against Atlanta, you know, playing against Araujo. So I said, you know how to stop him, and I think he did a great job. You know, obviously he's a fighter. You know, he's very intense. He's very focused. He works hard every day. He's kind of a quiet warrior type, and I just love the way that he attacked that second goal and just kind of drove and shoved the guy down and ran him over, and then great cross again in a great spot. Cucho, he makes it easy there, but I think Will Sands has been a great signing for us. You know, he hasn't played a ton because we've got a very good guy in front of him, but he's now going to get a run of games, and so I think it's a great opportunity for him now to really show what he's about in a very big week coming up, and he might end up having to play all three.
Question about Artur. Did he cross the threshold?
Fifth yellow, yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they lost their midfielder,
Yeah.
Lobo,
Mm-hmm.
as well for his 8th yellow.
So how does that work just technically for the training week? Do you start integrating whoever you choose to put in Nardi's place and make sure that that person's prepared?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to obviously prepare a guy that can't play.
Right.
So
right, yeah.
we want to put in a guy that's going to be playing. So
Okay.
just like any injury or anything. So Artie will still train, but it doesn't make much sense to prepare him to play this game when he can't.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, so obviously we know who's going to be in, and it's pretty obvious. I think you probably know as well who's going to be in. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully we won't miss a beat. I don't think we will.
Right.
But obviously, you know, it's too bad to anytime we lose a player like Artie.
Mm-hmm.